What's going on, lovely people? How are you? Welcome into the show. We're here with Fred and Dre. This is the Flea Flicker Show. Fred, how are you, buddy?
I'm not doing too bad, Adrian. It's could have been a better weekend in terms of NFL for me, but not the worst. Not the worst of the bunch, but at least my team won. That's all that really matters, and got to see my Longhorns pull out a W against the Alabama Crimson Tide. So that was definitely a nice one, moving up to number 4 in the standings. So love to see it.
Yeah, I'm gonna hit on a former Longhorn player later in this vid too, but yeah, my weekend went horribly. MetLife is a horrible place that is cursed forever.
Yeah, there's definitely a curse there. I mean, with both the Monday night game and the Sunday night game, the way those went, absolute
disaster,
travesty for both teams. But yeah, let's get this thing underway. Real quick before we kind of get into anything, I'm just gonna do a quick recap here first for some NFL news. We got Chris Jones. He got his 1-year deal done with the Chiefs. He may be on the move in the season. Who knows? He's an aged player in the league, aged veteran, and that 1 year, about $25 million. Maybe he's on the move. Maybe he stays put. Who knows? But no deal looks to be in the works for Mike Evans, so he may get dealt during the season as well. Any wide receiver needy teams, look out. Joe Burrow became the highest paid player in NFL history with that massive contract he signed. Good for Joe Cool. And Higgins likely to hit free agency this offseason since no deal is in the works right now. They're too far apart in terms of money, and he may be going somewhere else. I mean, his heart's in Cincinnati, but money talks. So the cool thing I saw this weekend, though, is that a Damar Hamlin documentary is in the works. Awesome. Love to see it, and love to see that for the Bills fan base, having something there that they can take a look at and enjoy. Since Monday night was not good for them.
Chandler Jones?
No, Chris Jones was the contract that got worked out.
Right. I know Chandler Jones was like basically holding out or not.
Yeah, Chandler may want
out
of Las Vegas. So we'll see. He's an excellent pass rusher and one of our 607 guys. We'll see what happens there.
Yeah. So moving on to the games, a lot of road teams won this week. Only 6 home teams won this week, so it was a Road Warrior week, which was very interesting.
Road Warriors came out to play.
Yes, they did. And there were quite a few surprises. Week 1 is notorious for that. But let's get right into it. Thursday Night Football, the opening game for the year, the Chiefs took on the Lions headed into the Chiefs Stadium in Arrowhead to take them on, and they surprised a lot of people. The Chiefs, they were missing Kelsey and Chris, like you said, Chris Jones. That proved to be not great for them.
To say the least.
Came out and
it wasn't pretty.
Yeah, the Lions came out and kind of did not really what they wanted, but they played really well. Jared Goff did good. Montgomery played a lot more than I thought he would. I thought it would have been the Gibbs show out there, but Montgomery had 21 carries, and Gibbs only had like around 7. That was interesting, but it worked for him. And then they shown Josh Reynolds is their number 2, I believe now. He looked pretty good out there. The Chiefs, they looked rough. What can you tell me about it?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, without Kelsey there, it's a little bit rough. And the offense overall, the receivers got open. The offense just looked a little bit stagnant. And the receivers couldn't catch a cold to save their life. Especially Kadarius Toney, man. He had brick hands out there, and he had feet for hands. He couldn't catch anything. And it was a disaster for Toney. And he was a guy that I was pretty high on going into the week. A lot of talent. He had been there before, and I thought he was going to do something more, and he let me down, let the Chiefs down, and really cost them the win there. There were a couple touchdowns that he could have had, but were easy drops. So can't really put it on Patty, but I know he's going to blame himself, being the leader that he is, and it's on to the next one for them.
Yeah. Tough sitch, but Lions took care of business. Let's move on. What do you got?
Yeah, let's go to an easy one here. My guys, Eagles, Pats. Quick one to talk about, really. I thought it might be a trap game going in. You never want to go into Gillette Stadium and face Bill Belichick's Patriots, especially Week 1. It's never easy. It's always going to be a tough obstacle, and especially on a night that they honored Tom Brady, they were coming to play, and the offense really was pretty slow to work. Few things came out of that game, though. I mean, Bradbury got hurt. N'Kobe Dean got hurt, so the Eagles are going to be looking for something there. And the Pats offense, I was pretty surprised. They looked a lot better than I thought they'd be. Bill O'Brien's got them turned around, and 54 pass attempts for Mac Jones. That's huge. Complete opposite of what the game script was in previous years for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he threw 3 touchdowns, 2 of them to Kendrick Bourne. Could Kendrick Bourne be their guy now? I don't know. He looked pretty good out there, which was surprising. Maybe Bradbury getting hurt had something to do with that. But
Possible.
Yeah, the Eagles, I thought the Eagles looked pretty good. They were a little less than what I thought they were going to come out as, but the Pats have a good defense, so maybe that shouldn't have been too surprising. What did surprise me was they had Gainwell as their number 1 wideout, or running back, rather. I did not expect that. I thought he had 14 carries, led them.
I did not expect it either. I don't think anyone really did in the Philadelphia Eagles community. And really, what is the running back identity there? I mean, after the game, Sirianni said he wants to get Swift more involved, and we'll see what happens Week 2. You got to imagine at some point it's going to really go into a hot hand, and who's going to be carrying the ball. It depends on who's hot that day. So I don't think it's going to be a necessarily RB1 approach. I think it's really going to be a committee and who's going to be the hot touch that day.
Yeah, Rashad Penny wasn't even active.
No.
Surprising. I drafted him in one of my leagues. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and move to what I thought was going to be the game of the week and was not. The 49ers headed into Pittsburgh to face the Steelers. I thought it'd be a good game. The Steelers did not show up. The 49ers defense had their number and their offense. It was a bloodbath out there. The 49ers, they went off. Brock Purdy looks like he's their guy. They made the right decision. Brandon Ayuk looked like he's one of the better receivers in the league. He had 2 touchdowns out there. And McCaffrey, did you see his run? He looks like McCaffrey. Yeah,
what was it, 63, 65-yard run he took to the house? I mean,
big run.
I thought Pitt was going to be a lot more competitive in this game, and outside of J.J. Watt, T.J. Watt, there wasn't really anything to be excited about with them this week. I mean, Pickett looked pretty bad, and I've been excited about him all year.
He looked pedestrian.
It was really his decision making. Was he nervous for the game? Nervous to open up against a team like the Niners? And it may have come through there on the field. He did not look good. His team did not look good. And on top of that, they came away with an injury from Deontay Johnson. They're one of their number 1 guys.
Injury.
And tough outlook for them over the next few weeks. But yeah, I agree. Ayuk looked like one of the best receivers in the league this week, and I'm really high on him this year. I think he's going to be the wide receiver to own in San Francisco. And I stood corrected on Purdy. I mean, I wanted to see what it looked like when a pass rush came against him, because in the NFC Championship he got taken out pretty quickly. But the pass rush was there for the Steelers, and he stood in front of it and executed. So this is one I got wrong. This was of the games we talked about so far. This is my first L here. Got the Lions right, got the Eagles right, and here we are getting San Francisco wrong. So 2 for 1, not a bad start.
They came out and they took Kenny Pickett down 5 times, 5 sacks. That's tough. Cam Hayward for the Steelers got hurt as well. He's probably headed to IR for the time being. And then they got Allen Robinson. Hopefully he can show up for them in next game, but they got the Browns, so that's also going to be another tough one. But let's move to the next one. What do you got for me?
Yeah, let's stick with that next game that you're talking about there. Let's stick with the Browns. Browns Bengals. That was a pretty wild game. You never expect for Joe Burrow and company to come out and put up 3 points, but they just looked a mess. They looked like a disaster out there.
Yeah.
You got to come after this in the Battle of Ohio saying, are the Browns legit? Are they legit contenders there? Their defense looked good. The offense looked good. The run was super strong for the Browns. They had a legit pass rush, and really, can the Bengals rebound, or are they sinking? And this is really possibly their last opportunity to make that title run with the unit they have now, with Boyd going to free agency, with Higgins going to free agency. You don't know what that wide receiver group's going to look like next year, and really now is their time to shine, so they got to step up.
Yeah, I think Joe Burrow, he just looked a little rusty out there. He was injured. He missed like pretty much a lot of training, and he just looked rusty. I think he will bounce back, but the good thing for him is they have a better game next week, I suppose. And they did go against a very tough defense. The Browns defense looks legit. Myles Garrett, did you see him? It looked like he was fake playing basketball out there before he'd come for Burrow.
Yeah, he was just having fun out there. But they revamped that defensive front there this offseason, and it showed to pay dividends. I mean, they looked good. They looked really good.
Yeah, Nick Chubb looked really good out there too.
He looks good every
Deshaun
day.
Watson,
Every week he's good. I mean, he's right there in top 3, if not the top back in the NFL.
Deshaun Watson looked okay. He's still got some stuff to do, some stuff to work out for the Browns to actually become a playoff team. And then one bad thing for the Browns, they lost Conklin. He's out for the season with an ACL. That's unfortunate for them. So next man up. I'm going to go ahead and move on to a fun game that I actually enjoyed. The Packers headed into Chicago and took on the Bears, and the Packers looked really good.
This was one that you had.
Jordan Love,
you had the answer for it. I mean, you thought the Packers were taking this all day. I picked Bears in this and was made to look like a fool. So obviously you were right there. The Packers are looking pretty damn good. A lot better than I thought they would. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm ready
for
them.
Take it away. What do you got for the Packers?
I'm ready to watch them all year. Yeah, the Jordan Love had 3 touchdowns. He looked really good in his first game. He found Romeo Doubs, who was questionable. He found him for two of those touchdowns. Aaron Jones looked really good out there in the backfield and receiving as well. He's a very dangerous guy. A.J. Dillon didn't look that great. We'll see if he can bounce back next game. But yeah, the Packers won this one handedly. Yeah. The Bears looked very questionable. Justin Fields, he threw a pick 6 that basically ended the game, and he looked kind of like he did last year. I mean, like he still just hasn't figured it out yet. So hopefully he does. Their O-line very questionable in front of him. What do you think about their offense? There's one guy on here that I hope you want to talk about.
Yeah, I mean the offense looked a little bit suspect. I mean Fields had a lot of room to grow. I agree that the offensive line for the Bears were not very good at all. Defensively, they definitely need some corner help, and they gave up a lot of yardage there to a Packers team that was without their best receiver and was really just a young group of kids out there, and they made them look like they were the vets. And on the other side of the ball, the Bears have a good receiving group. I mean, they have Moore, they have Claypool, they have Mooney, guys who have been around, guys who have had good production, and they couldn't do much of anything. Moore had a couple good plays, but at the end of the day, they just didn't really put up a lot. But I was expecting more of Cole Kmet too, and I mean, he had a lot of targets, a lot of usage, but this was an overall down week in general for tight ends. So I hope the Bears can bounce back.
They came in with high expectations. They came in with high expectations for the fan base. Hopefully they can bounce back. But I did want to hit Rashawn Johnson, running back,
my guy.
He looked pretty good back there.
He looked good. He was heavily targeted out of the backfield and got a good amount of carries there in the shared usage. And I mean, fantasy-wise, he had a phenomenal week as a secondary guy on his team. And both Texas guys this week, in terms of Texas running backs in this draft class, were pretty good.
Yeah, I think he could be a future piece for them. But let's go ahead and move. What do you got for me next, bud?
Yeah. If you want to go stick with Texas, let's go to the Falcons game there. Falcons Panthers. Sticking with the RB1 from Texas, being Bijan Robinson, the guy that overshadowed Rashawn Johnson and took all the glory there. But Bijan, he was He was used. It was more of an RB split than I thought it would be, but you knew Bijan was going to get some love, and Algier last year having over 1,000 rushing yards, you knew that he probably would get something, but really interesting going through the committee backfield, their approach with
They both
a
look
number
real
8
good.
pick in the draft.
Yeah, did you see Bijan's touchdown? He looked nasty,
Dude. He
He looked like a guy.
broke those tackles easily, made those guys look like fools. They were on skates there. So,
Yeah.
outside of the running game, though, the Falcons, it was pretty ugly for both the Falcons and the
Yes.
Panthers. So, I mean, Ritter looked pretty bad, and then Bryce Young looked bad as well. I mean, justifiably for him, it was his first game as a rookie, and Adam Thielen, I expected more, but he was virtually invisible out there. So we'll see if DJ Chark, when he comes back, if he can make a difference for them.
They're hoping for
They
him.
were really riding Sanders, and Sanders wasn't doing too much for them either. So
Yeah, the one thing I will say that looked good for the Panthers, Brian Burns on defense looked nasty, so he's still a guy. But overall, this is probably just going to be a rough year.
Yeah.
A lot of learning curves for the Panthers.
Brian, of course, looked
And
nasty
then
though. He wants to get paid, so
Yeah, and the Falcons literally just the running game looks like they're going to be a thing. The running game looks like they're going to be a thing. Other than that, questionable though.
Yeah, completely agree.
I'm gonna go ahead and move off that, and we're gonna go to the Raiders heading to Denver. They went into Denver and they took down Sean Payton and the Broncos in an interesting game. It wasn't like super fun, but it was okay. Russell Wilson looked solid in his first game with Sean Payton, and the rest of the Broncos were like okay. They like Samaje Perine. It looks kind of like they need Jerry Jeudy though, because other than that, it was a little rough out there. They had a lot of injuries. Their defense did okay, but other than that, I don't have too much else about the Broncos other than Sean Payton took an L here.
Yeah, I know were high on this game for Sean Payton. Thought he'd come out on that. I mean, but Jimmy G. I mean, he did what Jimmy G does, and he managed the game, and it wasn't exciting,
good.
but he was solid. He was just good. He was good enough to get the win. Didn't make any mistakes, and was really a true game manager. I agree. Russ looked better than last year, but he was still underwhelming. Tough one for me is Dulcich coming out of this game. Having an injury, he's being sidelined indefinitely with that hamstring problem, and I think that's a guy that I was really high on this year in terms of a breakout tight end candidate, and he's huge for their offense as well, as almost as much as Jeudy, if not more, just in my eyes, just because he's a tight end mismatch, and him and Jeudy out really affects that pass game.
Yeah, absolutely. Jacoby Myers for the Raiders looked good. He caught 2 touchdowns from Jimmy G, but then he had a scary injury where I thought it was going to be a lot worse than what it comes out to. It looks like he has a concussion. Nutmeg, say hi. But yeah, the Raiders looked okay. The Broncos looked okay. So we'll see what happens. Let's move on. Real quick.
apologies for the cutout there. Had some audio difficulties, but moving on to a new game. I think we covered everything we needed to with the Raiders Broncos there. So Texans Ravens. Texans Ravens. It's about what I expected. I mean, you think the Ravens are going to win that pretty handedly, and they did. The one thing I want to say about that game is poor J.K. Dobbins, man. That guy cannot catch a break.
That's tough.
I don't know what he's done in his life to upset the football gods, but he's on the bad side of things, and maybe he needs to make like a blood sacrifice or something, but they're not happy with him. So out for the season with torn Achilles, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
torn Achilles.
Rough injury, and hopefully has a good comeback. But Texans, there were some good and bad things. I mean, Stroud had some good moments, but overall the Texans had really bad coaching, bad play calling. It was really predictable, and with a young team, they really have to be backed by solid coaching and be put in a position to win, which they were not done. Was not done for them, and the offensive line looked terrible. I mean, Stroud could not buy any time there. So Ravens overall looked good, what you expected, and on to the next week for them. But what do you have for insight on this game?
Yeah, the Ravens defense looked really good. That's what we thought they were going to look like. Yeah, their offense, honestly, I thought was kind of questionable. Obviously, J.K. Dobbins went down, so the running room is going to be interesting. They got Gus Edwards and that the young guy, Brian something. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. Yeah, he. We'll see what they can do. Other than that, they had a lot of injuries in this game. They lost, obviously, Dobbins. Marcus Williams tore his pec. He's going to be out for a while. And they lost Ronnie Stanley and Linderbaum from their O-line.
And Mark Andrews
who
didn't
both might
play,
be missing
right?
the next week or so. What's
Mark
that?
Andrews didn't even play, so
yeah, Mark Andrews didn't play either.
He's on the men too, but it'll be interesting to see what they do in terms of running back. If they stay internal, which is what it looks like right now, or if they go to someone like Leonard Fournette or Kareem Hunt off of the free agency wire. So it'll be interesting. I mean, they're a little bit more proven, and can't forget too that they have Ingram coming off their squad as well. They just activated him, so.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. One good thing I say, Zay Flowers looked really good in this game, so they do have him. I'm going to move off them, though. I'm going to head to the Rams and Seattle. So this game was not what I expected it to be.
I don't think it's what anyone expected.
I thought the Seahawks were going to... No, not at all. I thought the Seahawks were going to come out and show a little more than they did. The Rams took it 30-13. That's tough for them. The Seahawks, they just looked kind of rough out there. Geno didn't do all that great. The O-line was like pushed around a little. Charles Cross got hurt. Both tackles actually left the game. Nothing was really showing up for the Seahawks, and it just looked bad. I don't know if you saw the play where Aaron Donald came up the middle and Geno screamed like, "Oh my God!" and threw the ball as fast as he could. That's about how the whole game went for them.
I mean, Aaron Donald will do that to you. He's a monster. He's a man among boys, and he really is one of the top guys in the NFL and possibly in NFL history. So, I mean, who saw the Rams coming out and really just taking it to the Seahawks like this? But no cup, no problem. Too, the young kids stepped up and really
Cooper
showed
Kupp
that they can man the helm. So, it was really interesting to see. And who's the rookie that they got? Puka, is that his name?
Dude, Puka Nacua and Tutu Atwell both looked nasty.
Yeah, dude. I mean, those are
Matt
two
Stafford
guys who
really good.
in fantasy you want to target on the waiver wire. So,
Yep.
they're not on almost any teams right now. So, really worth a look. And Stafford is back. So, much improved from that back injury he had. Seahawks, the
Rams D looked good.
Just very underwhelming. I thought Geno was going to do more, and he just did not look good. Offensive line for Seahawks, no, it did not look good. With that receiving core, though, you expect them to rebound and have some good weeks ahead.
Yeah, the Rams look like they might have a 1-2 punch at running back, too. Kyron Williams scored 2 times on the ground. Cam Akers looked pretty solid. And the O-line was surprisingly solid against the Seahawks D. And Sean McVay owns Pete Carroll in their matchups all time. So let's move on, though. What game do you got next, bud?
Yeah, let's go Cards Commanders. I trashed on this game last week, mostly for Jonathan Gannon, and it was kind of similar to the Raiders Broncos game. It was very boring. Wasn't too much going on there in terms of lighting up the stat sheet, but I expected more from Howell. He didn't do all that great. Cards, though, did a lot better than I thought they'd be. Their defense held up against an offense that has a lot of weapons, and I will say that Washington needs some serious help with pass protection. Sam Howell did not have a lot of time there, and that's never something you want to give a second-year quarterback, and you want to give them just like the Texans. You want to give them as many opportunities to succeed, and it starts with the line.
Yeah, Sam Howell, very up and down game. He had some moments though. He had a come from behind win here, fourth quarter comeback. So we got to give him that. He did bring it together at the end, But yeah, he couldn't really find his receivers in this one. Scary Terry almost did nothing. Jahan Dotson, they couldn't get too much going. Antonio Gibson was nowhere to be found. So they definitely have to figure something out on offense. But yeah, their defense was pretty solid. Against this Cardinals offense, though, I feel like they kind of should have shut him out, to be
Yeah.
honest. For the Cardinals, yeah, Josh Dobbs looked like a backup. He was basically just going through the motions. He found Zach Ertz. He went to him for 10 targets, so
Yeah.
that's somebody that you
Did not
know.
expect that coming off of the injuries Ackert's had. I mean, I didn't even expect him to
Yeah,
play
me
this
neither.
early. So him coming in getting 10 targets didn't do much with it, but it bodes well for him the remainder of the year, and remain to be seen what happens to McBride there as well, if he can be worked
Yeah,
in or if he's phased out. But an early pick in the draft, you expect McBride to get some usage.
yeah, you expect more. But enough with that one. Let's move on to the Indianapolis. Let's move to the Jaguars versus the Colts. The Colts surprisingly showed a little juice in this one, but the Jags ultimately took it 31-21. The Jags kind of started off not great. They were started off a little slow. They ultimately got the win, which they needed, but I think they should have done a lot better. Calvin Ridley did look really good, though. He went for over 100, so I guess he's back.
Yeah,
ETN scored. Um, yeah, the Jags, though, they need to get stuff together if they're going to be fighting off good teams.
yeah, I agree. It wasn't a super pretty win in terms of like a across the board what you're looking for a Jags team that has playoff and Super Bowl aspirations. Ridley looked great. Trevor Lawrence looked good, not great. Zay Jones, though, was the wide receiver to this game. Is that going to be how it works going forward? A lot of people thought Christian Kirk would be that wide receiver too, and
Yeah, weird.
he was buried on the target list. So, I mean, Ingram got some work, and Kirk did not. It was interesting, but good for Etienne, and I expect more of Tank Bigsby going throughout the year as well. But can they take that next step to improve? And I think they do need to improve that secondary, because the Colts should not have been able to pass on them like they did. They didn't light it up, but Pittman did pretty damn well against them. And with a rookie quarterback and Richardson, who has some question marks, he looked the best of all the rookie quarterbacks, at least. And he
really
really
did. It's
showed.
surprising.
He showed to be the most polished, at least this game. He had some good running and threw for some yardage there as well. So he's a very exciting player, and I'm excited for him and his future. But the Colts overall just aren't that great, and the Jags need a little bit more swagger.
Yeah, Anthony Richardson to Michael Pittman connection looks like it is alive for this season. Buckner had a huge fumble return touchdown that was kind of funny. I guess the Jags thought the play was dead, and he just picked it up and ran to the house. And Shane Steichen thought he was still on the Eagles for a second. I don't know if you saw, but they tried to do the butt push, which works for the Eagles so well. But the Colts O-line is not the Eagles O-line,
not
so
at
it
all.
did not work out how they wanted. And the Colts don't have a running back.
No,
That was very.
if they have Jonathan Taylor back at any point this year, the offense could be an above-average threat, and actually pretty damn good offensively if they can get a legitimate rushing threat.
Yep. Let's move off though. Who do you got next for
Yeah,
us?
let's go Bucks Vikings. So I know we touched on it a little bit, didn't talk there too much about it though. So let's dive in here. What do you got for Bucks game? I know you were a little bit
Yeah.
high on Baker than I was, and he's surprised.
I was very happy with not so much the outcome. I like the Vikings, but I was happy that what I said about Baker actually resonated in this game, because he is a very streaky player. He can have really good games, and then he's always going to fall back to earth. That's just how he works. But this was a pretty good game for him. The first half was rough. They didn't come out strong, but right before halftime, he went down the field and they scored with Mike Evans. And then after halftime, Baker was on fire. He had a nice drive at the end of the game and scored two, and he just looked solid. And the Bucks receivers looked pretty good out there. And the only thing that wasn't really great is their running back, Rashawn White, I believe. He couldn't really get too much going on. So unfortunately, they have to figure something out with that. But the Bucs look like a team that's not great, but a team that can knock off good teams if they have a good game.
Yeah, I certainly agree with there. They definitely can play the spoil to a lot of teams, and uh,
Yeah,
about this game, I mean, Justin Jefferson was Justin Jefferson and did what Justin Jefferson does. He went out
yep,
and he performed. Really nice to see Addison getting involved in well as well, and the Bucs
I like
showed to
that.
have a decent defense. It was like a bend don't break type aspect there with that, but they could use some CB help to get. They were getting burned pretty frequently, and everyone gets burned by J Jet, and it'll happen. But they were getting ran by pretty frequently. But I would say that the Vikings do need some to be able to put some pressure on the quarterback. They didn't really get to do this too much this game, and I think the pass rush is something that they were supposed to be pretty good at on defense. And obviously, corner is an issue
Yeah.
for them, but getting that pass rush is really what's going to help them excel and go to the next step in playoffs, which is really what their aspiration is there with Cousins and the
Mhm.
wide receiver group.
Yeah, they definitely missed Delvin Cook in this game. Madison didn't look like the same guy, and Kirk will be Kirk.
Yeah.
He had some good moments, and he had some real bad moments. Threw some bad picks he shouldn't have thrown. So, um, yeah, but that's that game. What let's move to what I think everyone pretty much agrees to was the game of the week. The Dolphins headed into LA to take on the Chargers, and it turned into a fireworks show. 36-34, both offenses came out going to work, and it was just a fun game to watch. The biggest part of the game to note, Tua to Tyreek Hill is very much so alive. Tua 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. Tyreek Hill over 200 yards and 2 touchdowns for him, and he looked unstoppable out there. And this looks like a very dangerous offense
What's
for this
crazy
year.
is that Tyreek actually had a good amount of missed points out there. He got down to the 1 yard line. He missed a touchdown as well, where he didn't stay in bounds. And if he had those two right there, he would have had I think it was like 58 points that he would have potentially had in
Whew.
fantasy this week, and at least in a PPR
He
format,
was
that
winning
is
games.
a massive week. He still had a massive week,
Yeah,
but that would have been even better. But yeah, but for this game, like you said, it was high scoring throughout. Amazing game. Uh, both teams were coming out firing on all cylinders, and um, Tyreek was Tyreek, and he was insane. Tua looked like the best quarterback in the league this week, and
yes, he did.
it was it was a great game. LA needs some help on defense, and outside of Mack and Bosa, there's not really much there. But both of these teams, I think, can make a huge push for the playoffs. And if the Chiefs struggle this year, like they look to on Thursday night, and I do think both of these teams can make a push.
Yeah, the Chargers look really good too. It looks like Kellen Moore is going to be a good O coordinator for him. He does like the running backs. Eckler and Josh Kelly both look nasty out
They
there.
both
They
had
look
a
like
lot
a
of
good
work
duo.
and did well.
hmm Eckler did get hurt though. That is one thing to note. We're not sure at this time if he's going to be in the next game, but they look
Yeah.
dangerous.
Uh,
Let's go ahead
yeah,
and
if you want to touch on another game here before we get to the two night games, we still have Titans Saints.
yeah.
So in this game, Saints came out on top, and I thought both of us thought the Titans were going to do a little bit more in terms of Henry getting involved, and D Hop though. I mean, you called it. You thought he was going to make an extra play, and he did all he could. He got 15 targets. He was peppered.
Yes, he was.
It'll be interesting to see if they move on from Tannehill at some point this year, because he's just not too exciting. Just move on to Levis. I mean, Levis has got an arm. He's got enough weapons to work with there, and a good enough offensive line. So I think they'd be almost just as good with Levis as they are with Tannehill.
Yeah, I think at some point they might as well if Tannehill's going to be playing like this. He was having a rough game out there. Both defenses for these teams showed up. It was a defensive slog for most of this game. Tannehill threw 3 picks. He wasn't comfortable at all. He still can't find Traylon Burks out there. So it was basically just him throwing to D Hop all game. And then Derrick Henry, I mean, he was okay, but like he wasn't Derrick Henry out there.
And
The
Andre
Saints, on the other
Dillard,
hand,
former
though,
Eagles first-round pick,
oof,
absolutely terrible this week, dude. Six
no
six
bueno.
quarterback pressures that man gave up. That you can't allow that to happen. And he got I think the worst grade of anybody on their team, and it's you can't let your left tackle do that. So if they can get any help at left tackle, that's gonna really help them tremendously.
Yeah, the Titans O-line looks like it's going to be rough probably all year, which is not good for Tannehill. The Saints, though, Chris Olave is a stud. He looked good out there with Derek Carr. And then Derek Carr, he looks like exactly what the Saints needed. I think I agree with what you said at the beginning. The Saints are probably going to be the team for this division just because of Derek Carr.
Yeah, I just think they're
he
the
won the
most
game
complete team in the division. They're not
Yeah.
a world beater, but in that division, they have the least amount of question marks, and they have the best QB in the
Yeah.
division.
And once Alvin Kamara comes back, they could be that much more dangerous.
Very true.
Carr found Rashid Shaheed near the end of the game to win that one for him, and they have a solid defense. So, yeah, they could be a team to watch for. Let's move to the worst game of the week. I'm just going to let you start off because I got to take a breath.
Yeah,
one.
all I have to say for this is just wow. The Cowboys really just dominated the game, but in my mind, it still wasn't a strong showing for Dak. He completed under 50% of his passes. I mean, granted, the weather conditions were bad to say the least there, but it affected both teams. And if you're going to use the argument that weather was the reason for Dak missing 50% or less of his passes, the same can be said for Daniel Jones. So the weather was terrible, factoring for both of those guys. And I think the Giants' miscues is what really led to the large lead in the beginning. And with the weather the way it was, the team that established the run the most was going to come out victorious. And because of the early lead that Dallas got from the Giants' miscues, they were able to just run, and the Giants had to pass. And in that weather, if you have to pass, you're not going to win.
Yeah, Pollard looked pretty solid for the Cowboys. He scored twice. But the offense for the Cowboys didn't have to do really anything in this game. The Giants' offense lost it for them. The O-line was absolutely horrendous. The Giants, pretty much everything that could go wrong did go wrong for them. The first drive of the game, Saquon in the running game looked pretty good. And then right at the end, that blocked field goal, Andrew Thomas went down. The Cowboys returned it for a touchdown, and everything just fell apart. And it was the most disgusting showing I think I've ever seen from the Giants, to be honest.
They got to have a memory of a goldfish, though, right? You got to have a 5-second memory and move on.
Yeah, this is why I'm wearing a Peja Stojakovic Yugoslavia jersey, because I'm disgusted with the Giants. Hopefully they can move on next week. But Andrew Thomas being hurt is huge for them. If he's out, I don't know what they're going to do. Yeah. And his backup, Matt Pert, also got hurt during the game. So we had a guard at tackle finish the game for the Giants.
It's never a good recipe for success. Anyway, I know you don't want to talk about this one too much more. So let's move on to the Monday night game. Another game that was at MetLife, and MetLife appears to be cursed. 3 minutes into the game, Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles.
He didn't even have a single completion.
No.
He didn't make a pass for them. He attempted one. That's so sad. Yeah.
It was honestly a pretty boring game. I mean, Zach Wilson comes in at quarterback. You expect that offense to be boring, and it just became a defensive battle. I think Josh Allen there, once Zach Wilson came in, and he just kind of played like he was on the playground and tried just airing it out all the time instead of actually hitting his receivers for 10, 15 yards, which was open almost every play. His air it out mentality, the gunslinger mentality that he has, kind of similar to Brett Favre, like you mentioned, really hurt them in the end, and he put the loss on him, and it was on him.
Yeah, it was. He did get pressured a lot. The Bills' O-line looks like it could be a problem going against good pass rushes like what the Jets have. He was taken down 5 times in this game, and he threw 3 picks to Jordan Whitehead. He got all 3 of them, which is interesting.
3 picks, 4 turnovers.
Yeah, insane. He had a really good game. Diggs did do good. I'll give them that. But this was really just a defensive game, a slog. Like you said, once Aaron Rodgers went down, the Jets didn't know what to do. Breece Hall had a good game. He looked like he's fully recovered.
Breece Hall looked filthy. I mean, that
he
running
looked
back
really
duo for the Jets is going to be a problem. Dalvin
Yes, it will
Cook
be.
and
They-
Breece Hall, you can't take a break against them, and both guys ripped off some big runs, and they're going to be a problem
Yeah.
for the rest of the league.
They need it to be a problem because Zach Wilson looked like a deer in headlights all game.
Yeah.
It was bad.
I'll
Hopefully
tell
they
you
can
what,
come
though,
out and
with Zach
figure it
Wilson
out,
at
though.
QB, I am worried about Garrett Wilson's prospect for the rest of the year. I mean, he's a phenomenal receiver
Yep.
to waste his talent with Zach Wilson.
Yeah, everything was pretty much planned for Aaron Rodgers to come in, and with his 19 years of game experience, the Jets were set. But now Zach Wilson's in, and he's not going to come to the line and be able to just switch calls based on what he sees, like Aaron Rodgers could. So
No, it'll be
they're
interesting
definitely going to
see
have
if
to go
they,
back to the drawing board.
It'll be interesting to see if they bring in a veteran quarterback. If they bring in someone like Carson Wentz, who really 50-50 chance whether he's good or whether he's bad, but trade for someone like Minshew or Brissett, or even bring in somebody who's out of the league right now and someone that used to play for the Jets, Fitzpatrick. He was in the Manning cast last night, and I for one would love to see Fitzmagic back in the NFL. Dude's entertaining.
Yeah, I would too. They could even maybe Matt Ryan even. He's also in the booth right now, but yeah, they did say that Zach Wilson will be their starter for the year, but if he struggles, we'll see how long that lasts. We went over all the games this week. It'll be fun to get this preview going for our next video, but other than that, please like, comment, subscribe if you liked what you saw, and we'll be back for more. Fred, you got to sign off? What's going on?
Yeah, you can catch us on Spotify as well. The Flea Flicker Show. Catch us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon as well. We're out there and looking for that like button, that subscribe. So give us that like, give us that thumbs up, and stay tuned. Every Tuesday we'll give you this recap.